What is up, everybody? Hello, hello. Good to see you today. I am someone who has offered some critiques at times of Tony Parsons, illuminated some traps that you can fall into with his message. But today I really want to express appreciation for Tony. I've been diving more into his books, which I really love lately. And I wrote an article the other day celebrating what I love about his work and his message. So, without further ado, I'm going to just go ahead and um, read that article here. So, appreciation for Tony Parsons, a radical non-dual razor blade. There's one of Tony's books, which I recommend. Tony Parsons' non-duality books are excellent. I love reading his writing. It's especially good at a sauna or on retreat, or when you're feeling overly fixed within the story of your life and the world of form. Ironically, my second most viewed YouTube video is actually a video of me offering some reflections on potential traps and shadows of Tony's approach. At times I've critiqued Tony and Jim Newman's form of radical self-negating non-duality because I do feel one has to be careful not to stumble into solipsism, nihilism, moral relativism, or the negation of our sacramental human journeys and relationships. Yet I want to freshly celebrate that there is also a lot of signal and juice in Tony's message. There is something cold water refreshing about such a minimalist message that strips everything away, a message that refuses to appeal to all normal human categories. Tony's really good at leaving you with nothing to grasp onto. And in that total spaciousness of no thing, in that uncompromising emptying of the cup, something fresh can be tasted. Vast freedom, all enveloping silence, unknown love. Here are some good quotes from Tony's books. Life is not a task. There is absolutely nothing to attain except the realization that there is absolutely nothing to attain. For life is its own purpose and doesn't need a reason to be. That is its beauty. This aliveness is nothing, being everything. It's just life happening. This message is so simple, it totally confounds the mind. This message is too simple. All there is life. All there is beingness. There isn't anyone that ever has or does not have it. There's nobody that has life and somebody else doesn't have life. There just is life being life. The very idea that you have to become something is a direct denial that already this is all there is. There is a certain all-dissolving energy permeating Tony's whole communication, a radical stripping away, incinerating all categories of thought, leaving only naked, sparkling presence. For me, his message is best held as one tool in a broader toolkit. He isn't one to provide holistic, embodied relational wisdom on navigating human life, which to me is also deeply important. But for those times when you just need someone to cut everything away and reveal the simple freedom and relief of weightless wholeness and at-homeness now, he's excellent. I just advise people to not turn his statements into an ontology or metaphysics. Again, when interpreted as a new belief system, what he shares can quickly distort into solipsism, life-denying nihilism, or relativism. But if you see his message simply as a cutting technology for opening a freedom beyond all mentalization, it's a highly effective razor. So I'd like to say thank you to Tony And also thank you to Jim Newman, another communicator who was impacted by Tony. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate you. Sincerely, Jordan. So perhaps I'll share just a couple more thoughts here. That pretty much summarizes my appreciation for Tony and for his message. Um, yeah, and when I feel into the question of where do I uh, diverge from Tony at this stage, really there's a lot of resonance. There's a lot of overlap, I would say. Um, One place I would probably diverge is that he seems to suggest that everything that happens is total perfection and there is no right or wrong in any sense. And I can see where he's coming from with that. I can feel into that space where all questions dissolve, all categories dissolve, all doubts dissolve here and now. And from that space, it does really feel like everything is total perfection, total completion. Um, at the same time, I do feel like intrinsic in this completion of reality, there is a way of things, there is a logos, there is a through line. You know, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Um, and he was pointing toward being an embodiment of the deepest principle of reality, actually embodying that completion and that wholeness so as to be a pure expression of the love that this most foundationally is. And so I would say when the way is known, there is peace, and when the way is forgotten, there is war. And when wholeness is known, there is peace, and when wholeness is forgotten, there is war. You know, Jesus said, broad is the path of destruction, and narrow is the path to truth. Um, he was basically pointing to there are countless ways to diverge into forgetfulness of this completion and not embodying this unity and this wholeness and the unconditional love that it inherently entails. And of course, it's natural to miss the mark. We all do all the time. And yet to just simply throw up your hands and say, yeah, well, it's all equal, you know, doesn't matter what anyone does. The most heinous and cruel and brutal acts are completely perfect. I don't I don't align myself with that message. It feels like a dangerous half-truth. You know, it may be again pointing at something very profound when you go into that space here and now where all questions dissolve and all doubts dissolve and all words dissolve. It does feel like everything is whole, everything is complete, everything is intrinsically perfect as it is. And I feel that's true in a profound sense. And yet it also seems to be a living paradox where um, the more profoundly we remember that intrinsic wholeness, the more we will naturally embody it as an expression of love and peace. And the more deeply we have forgotten that intrinsic wholeness, the more we will miss the mark and deviate from that love potentially in profound ways. So I feel we do need a capacity to recognize that there is a way, there is a truth, there is a life, and it's possible to more fully align with that and give your life over. to that, you could say. Hmm. And perhaps one other place that I might diverge from Tony is that he really strongly emphasizes that there's no one here, which I take to mean that he's essentially saying there's no fixed self. There's no identifiable, pin downable, fixed homunculus or center point that we usually feel ourselves to be. We usually feel ourselves to be, if we don't look closely, there's some kind of sense of an I that, or a me that lives around this area of the head. And there's a sense that I'm kind of living in my head or in my body. And Tony is saying, if you look closely, that fixed self is not really there. You look closely, and all you find is ever swirling, ever dancing phenomena. Could be one way that I would say it. Or you simply find openness, you find vastness, you don't find anything totally fixed or pinned downable. And I would say that's the case when you look closely at anything in life. Everything is a dance, a flow. Everything is in flux. Everything is continuously morphing. So you can't really pin anything down or box anything in. And um, I would agree that that is a profound and liberating uh, insight to go into on the path. It's very foundational because this sense of a rigidified self seems to be one of the most root concretizations that leads us to concretize everything else and makes our lives seem like this very rigid, very fixed, very stuck condition. Whereas, as Peter Brown would say, everything is totally unstuck. Everything is infinitely open-ended. This is continuously fresh. This is continuously new. So stuckness is not possible. And that's the type of liberating discovery that can occur as you go deep into non-duality. And at the same time, though, um, I sometimes find this no one here language to be kind of clumsy and overly negating, because in another sense, clearly there is a body here. There's a recognizable body here. It's kind of like which level of perception or level of analysis are we looking from? If we're looking at the more gross level, then there are these clearly recognizable bodies that have this clearly recognizable flavor that persists across time. There is clearly a JB-ness here, what we're calling a Jordan person here. And um, and if I do again look more subtly and go to that subtle level, I find vastness, I find openness, I find spaciousness, I find unpinned down ability. But if I look at the more human, personal, gross or concrete level, then clearly there's a body here, there's a person here. Of course, I can't pin down exactly what a body or a person is because it's inseparable from this whole mystery, and you'd have to pin down what this whole mystery is. But we can say there's a mysterious body, a mysterious person here, and I'm not one to negate that. I find it important to honor our bodies, our personhood, our sacramental human journeys. Those don't seem less true or less real to me. And so, yeah, I don't have a tendency to go as strongly into that no one here pointing, although I think that can be a useful tool for popping bubbles and opening a sense of vastness. And on a similar note, Tony's very insistent that there is no choice whatsoever because there is no chooser, there's no free will. Um, Yeah, I don't go as far in that direction either. Um, I feel like it's a mystery and it seems like it's overly pinning it down and oversimplifying it to me when people just say, yeah, there's no choice, there's no chooser, there's no free will. Um, to me, it seems clear that there are degrees of participation in this dance. And yeah, I don't find it easily pin downable. I don't find that it easily pins down into any category such as destiny or free will or not free will or determinism. It's just it's an omnidimensional participation that can't be pinned down. Um, yeah. And I do love that Tony speaks a lot about unconditional love. He speaks about discovering unconditional love as the basic uh, nature or fragrance of this wholeness. And yeah, that's my experience as well. And I feel, yeah, it's to me, there can be many types of awakening or mystical experiences, but for me, a signal of deep and true awakening that's being embodied and being lived and is real is that a person has become more in touch with unconditional love and is giving that to everyone and everything, including themselves. And of course, we're all human. Again, we all miss the mark. Um, it's an ever deepening journey into love. But for me, that love is very paramount, even as we also, you know, even as on one hand, it's an ever deepening journey, and on the other hand, as Tony is so good at pointing out, this is it now. Here it is. There is this simple freedom of now simply being as it is. Just this pure openness and spaciousness of this is actually here. This is reality. Dig it. Enjoy it. Savor it. Drink it in. This is the juice. This is the mother lode, as Peter Brown would say. This is the moolah. This is where the richness is, the treasure is. So we've all inherited this treasure chest if we can simply open our eyes and see. So again, thank you, Tony Parsons, deeply appreciating your contribution, your playfulness, your humor, your innocence, your simplicity, your penetrating words that are so useful for slashing through layers of fixity and concretization and revealing openness, spaciousness, and freedom. So thank you, everybody. Aho, amen. Peace in all directions. Love to everybody out there. Take care. Be well. Peace.